Okay, this topic here is probably the juiciest topic of the episode, and it involves a poll that Lebanese stand-up comedian Noor Hajar put on his Instagram maybe a couple of weeks ago. I can't remember, but I remember that I took a screenshot of the results because I thought it was something that I wanted to discuss. And I think he basically asked his followers, who are your least favorite Lebanese influencers, basically, or 5 most hated accounts on Instagram. And the results were Tufiluk, Lama, Gino Raide, Polexandra, and Political Pen. So I'm going to basically share my thoughts on each of these accounts. I know some of these people in person, so it might be a little bit weird to talk about, but this podcast is all about honesty. And I mean, hey, I'm not going to shit on anyone or anything. So I'm going to start with Tufiluk. Tufiluk, hugely popular on Instagram. I totally get why he would be voted as one of the most hated ones. I do not like his brand of comedy. Not everyone has to, but it does seem to be a little bit obnoxious for my taste. Is he like that in real life? I don't think so. I mean, most likely everyone plays up their character on social media. And there's a guy that I really like called Tony Kanan. You all most likely know him. He's huge on Instagram. He hangs out with him. Like, I see it on Instagram. So if Tony likes him, I'm guessing he's not that bad. But I totally get this one. So I'm not going to really argue it much. Another one is Polexandra. Now, Polexandra, I followed her, in, like I think most of you, during the revolution. She was a perfect source and resource for like all what was happening in the streets. People were tagging her anytime someone filmed something, or anytime someone had an important update or news to share, she would share it. I think it was an incredibly useful Instagram account, to be honest with you guys. So I don't think people voted for her because of that. I think this might be more backlash on the fact that maybe, I think she ended up going on like some television show on like LBC or MTV, something like that, and influencers of Thora or Heke. And I think that maybe she's getting some backlash because of that, like maybe her being associated with the revolution, even though I don't know, like from what I gather on social media, she's a life coach and she seems like an incredibly sweet lady, an incredibly nice person. So I don't think people don't like her personally. I think they maybe don't like the fact that she's that active politically. Maybe some people disagree with her political opinion as well, or they just don't think like she's qualified or credible enough to be talking about these things. But from what I remember, she was incredibly useful during the revolution. I got access to so much information because of her. So that's what I think about Polexandra, Political Pen. Now that is also an account that I followed starting in the revolution back in Lebanon. Look, my guess is anything political, you're going to have people who agree and who disagree. You know what I mean? So if the people disagree with what Political Pen has to say, like from a just political perspective, just from like the basics of who they like, who they don't like, I get it. If I recall correctly, I think Political Pen used to sometimes get criticized for maybe sharing some unverified videos or news before it was really verified. So maybe that's one of the reasons as well. Again, I found them pretty useful during the revolution. I'm not gonna lie, I don't check their page nearly as much now, or Polexandra for that matter. Like, I don't really know what they're about anymore. But those are that. Lama. So Lama, I know Raid in person. We've hung out a couple times. Like, mainly, I've seen him at premieres for like Marvel movies or DC movies. We're both really big into comic book movies and comics and stuff like that. So every time I see him, I am happy to kind of talk to him. We sort of break down the movies, and he's got some pretty good theories and stuff. So I wouldn't say we're close friends or anything like that. But I mean, I know the guy. I've worked with him slightly. Him being on this list, I'm kind of surprised because, like, look, I don't love his brand of comedy. He's like Tufiluk, I'm not really a fan of either of their comedy. Not saying that their brands of comedy are similar at all. They're both very different, I would say. But I just don't find either of their work particularly funny. That's nothing against Raid. I'm sure he would say the same about my work. But I think I'm in the minority, though. Like, his page has hundreds of thousands of views. He's like one of the most popular pages in Lebanon. So me seeing him on this list, I think is also goes back to the Polexandra thing, where I think ever since the revolution started, and he maybe tried to position himself as like a credible Thora leader or Thora movement, I think that is what people are kind of annoyed by. And look, I kind of, when I was talking about Anis Tabit last week and saying why I liked him, Anis is a movie fanatic, and he's an influencer, but he's known for his love of movies. So when Anis talks about movies, he's credible. You believe what the guy is saying, or you at least know that he knows what he's talking about. Lama was always, a comedy page and making fun of like music videos and commentary and a lot of that stuff. Him making the switch into politics, I think most people are like, dude, why should I listen to you? So I think that's why he's on this list. And hey, if people don't find him funny, then that's another thing. But he just has so many followers that I find it hard to believe that a lot of other people, aren't really big fans of his comedy. But again, nothing but positive experiences when I'm around him. Nice guy, So yeah, it is what it is. Gino Raide. Now this Gino is probably the most polarizing figure on like social media in Lebanon, at least in terms of like mid-level influencers. I'm not talking about influencers with millions of followers and stuff. I know Gino personally. We actually hung out together in Washington, D.C. years ago, like 7 years ago or something. And much like Lama, who I always run into at like Marvel movie premieres, I see Gino anytime there's a Star Wars movie or like a Lord of the Rings movie. I've seen him at the Hobbit movies, and I remember seeing him anytime there was a Star Wars movie. We catch up, we talk a little bit. We've done a couple of videos together. Look, personally, I really like Gino. And I think most people who get to know Gino and have hung out with him a few times would tell you that he's a perfectly chill dude to hang out with. But I think that Gino is a bit aggressive, to say it mildly, when he talks to people online. And while I would say, for example, like I agree with maybe 95% to 99% of what Gino believes in and what Gino fights for. But the way he fights for it, and maybe the way he sort of interacts with people online, hurts his message and makes people who are inclined, who would normally, on paper, be allies of his, kind of see him as an enemy. And I think that's why Gino is on this list. And I think that's why a lot of people don't like Gino. I don't think it's because they disagree with him politically. Some people might, completely fair. And I think the way he talks to people, he tends to perhaps sort of burn bridges rather than like extend a hand or something like that. Now, again, this is Lebanon. We have a horrible government. Can you blame a guy who has decided that maybe speaking politely and politely asking for things doesn't work with a government like ours? Sometimes you have to yell. Sometimes you have to be a little bit aggressive. And sometimes when you're arguing with people who are so stubborn and who still believe and defend ideals and people who clearly have failed after this country has literally blown up in our faces, I get why the guy gets angry. Do I agree that it's the best way to approach people? No, and I think this is why he's kind of a polarizing figure. So that's my take on these 5 accounts. I hope no one thinks I'm coming after him or anything like that. I just really wanted to share how I saw it, and props for Noor for sort of asking that, because that is something that I was interested in doing. And also, please keep in mind, this is Noor's audience voting, so they might have a bias against some of these people. I remember not long ago, Noor and Gino kind of had a mini sort of argument on social media, which then got resolved very quickly. But this is also sort of a biased view. This isn't like the purest form. This is Noor's audience. So, yeah.
Do not worry.